coming up on Outdoor Oklahoma.
Folks think that they help keep the water clean. They're actually depleting the nutrients within the water, so definitely not ideal to have in any of our lakes.
Anyway, had a nice, memorable ride back to the boat ramp in my underwear after stripping all that stuff off, and it was about 35 degrees that day, so yeah.
That's awesome.
The great memories.
This fish is actually going to be in the 80-pound range. So I'm going to bring her aboard. We're going to work real quick here. I'm going to have my rope ready to go for another jerk. Good job, baby.
Much flavor that comes out of that first bite. You get that rosemary right off the top. Oh, you got him. You got him, Emily.
Oh!
Nice mess of blue cat we have right there.
Ready.
Now folks, this is what we're after. This is what you get in Outdoor Oklahoma.
Outdoor Oklahoma is brought to you by the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation, sharing the beauty, the adventure, and the spirit of Oklahoma's wild places.
So today we're at Lake Bixhoma and we're going to be sampling for zebra mussel veligers, which is their larval stage. We historically have not had zebra mussels in Lake Bixhoma, so today we're going to see if they do have them. Zebra mussel, it's an invasive mussel. They first came to the United States. They showed up in the Great Lakes, but they first came in the late 1980s. And then 5 years after that, they showed up in Oklahoma. So they traveled a great distance in a pretty short amount of time. They are super invasive. They attach to anything that's hard. So it can be rocks, docks. They can attach to pipes. They can also attach to anything within your boat motor. So super, super invasive. They also compete with our native mussels that we want. And while folks think that they help keep the water clean, they're actually depleting the nutrients within the water. So definitely not ideal to have in any of our lakes. But they're also very destructive and cause a lot of issues for us. So our water intake pipes, if they are showing up in any water supply lakes, they can get within those pipes and start to slow down the water flow through those pipes, and then eventually those are going to have to get cleaned out, which is very costly. Like I said, they can get within your boat motors, and that is definitely not cheap to have to get cleaned out as well. So whenever we first start sampling, we tend to get a water quality reading, so that will collect temperature data. It'll collect dissolved oxygen within the water, as well as pH and the salinity of the water as well. So when I go to collect the water quality data, I wrap my sonde around so I don't lose it, and drop it down in the water to where all the probes are in there, and I'll let this set and stabilize, and we'll collect the data off of it towards the end of our sample. An invasive species, it's harmful in some way, shape, or form, whether that's to the organisms that are out in the wild or to even us. They can cause any sort of, ecological, societal, or economic impact. Zebra mussels, for example, are kind of hitting on all those categories, so definitely competing with our native species, and then also impacting user groups for different bodies of water, and then they're definitely expensive. Once they do kind of get established in bodies of water, they're very expensive to manage and control in a way. Now we're gonna measure the Secchi depth, which when you measure this, you need to do it in a shadow. So I'm gonna use my own shadow here, and this will give some insight onto the turbidity of the water. So this lake's pretty clear, so we can see it's still going down. And you do this until you can't see the black and white anymore. So I can't see it anymore right there. So I'll pull it up. So this is right around 1.75 meters. Over the past several years, we've been going around to historically clean lakes and trying to detect them as early as we can by sampling for their young as they are free floating. You can walk shorelines and flip rocks and try to look for adults or even smaller adults that have attached, but it's a lot easier to get them while they're free floating and get them in a net. So this is a plankton tow net, which we'll use to collect the zebra mussel veligers if they are present. So it's a pretty fine mesh net. It actually feels like cloth. And we actually number each net. So this is net 15. So when you're sampling multiple lakes in a season, you keep track of each net because we don't have a net for every single lake, so kind of helps keep track if there's any sort of cross-contaminating potentially going on with your sampling. So when we sample, we generally do a vertical tow, so we'll drop it all the way down to the bottom, and then we'll do a horizontal tow as well. This super fine mesh net, it'll allow for us to filter out a lot of the particles within the water. You're getting a lot finer concentrate by using the net instead of just getting a water sample. Looks like it was about 4 meters deep right there. And I'll kind of do this to rinse down to the bottom of the net everything that was collected. So you can see up here, there's a little bit of stuff that's kind of accumulated. So we'll just kind of rinse it down to the bottom and let some of that water drip out so we don't have as much water per sample. And then we'll just undo this, let our sample go in, and rinse a little bit more. And that's it. Once we get our sample, we'll send them into a lab, and it can take a few weeks for us to find out if they do have them or not. But if they do, we are quick to notify the public and get signs out explaining what we'd like you to do. And if not, then we'll just keep it on our rotation to sample again. There are a few different ways to check to see if a body of water that you're planning on going to does have them. You can check our website. We try to keep an updated list on our website of what lakes have what invasive species. Once they're in a body of water, we just ask that you do your part, you know, clean out your boat, let it dry for 5 days, pressure wash it with very hot water to kill those mussels if you intend to go to a different body of water. Like I said, once they're here, they're here. So if you are moving bodies of water, just please don't take them with you. Contain, that's what we need.
Hey everybody, my name is Jacob Tyson, the host of Real Talk, Real Tips, a YouTube series where we share insights and tips on fishing right here in Oklahoma. Check out one of our recent episodes right now.
Man, I go to church with named John Thompson, who's a worm farmer.
Yes, sir.
And he has a strain of worms he calls Georgia Brown. I'm not sure if that's their official scientific name or not, but that's what he calls them. Not super long worms,
Right.
like you'd expect with a night crawler, but they're really wriggly and they're really stinky and they're really good fish worms, especially catfish. He gave me a start, which is about 20 worms.
Okay.
I got an old flat freezer that someone had put on the side of the road for the trash man to pick up. I beat him to it. It was an inoperable freezer. Filled it up with spangled peat moss on the bottom of the chest type freezer, probably 12 inches deep, maybe 16. Moistened that spangled peat moss where it was wet to the touch, but you know, you'd already wrung most of the standing water out of it. Drop the worms down in there. And then from there, it's just a matter of feeding them. And I found out that chicken crumbles, which is basically chicken food that you can buy at any feed store for about $10 a bag for 50 pounds. Put it in there about once a week and keep them fed good anytime you need to go fishing, because a box of worms at the bait shop or Walmart is ridiculous these days. $4 or $5 for 12 worms. Get out of here with that.
Right.
You can go get you 40 or 50 and not even hardly hurt your population. So,
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been
That's
great.
awesome.
About how fast do you see them like multiply? They multiply
It's-
pretty fast.
They do, and you can see the actual eggs in your spangled peat
that's
moss.
neat.
Yeah, yeah.
And just the little like white.
They're
little
kind of
kinda
greenish on these type of worms,
Uh-huh.
just a little dot, like a smaller than a BB even.
Okay.
And yeah, and then when they first come out, of course, you can barely see them like a thread, but they grow fast. Those chicken,
little tiny baby worms.
absolutely, but they become adults quickly,
Really?
and they reproduce like rabbits. So.
Nice.
That's
Now,
awesome.
there's challenges with that. If you're outside, even if you're in an insulated freezer, if it gets too
Right.
hot, they can die off. I've had that happen a couple times. 2011 was the worst heat and drought year we'd ever had. I lost them. 2 summers ago was about as bad. Lost them that summer. And I had one winter that was so cold that I lost them that winter. But I always keep a small igloo type cooler in my well house where there's a constant temperature. And I always have worms in that as a backup in case I lose my main population.
Gotcha. So
And
those are kind of like your quote unquote starter worms.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And I've given some people some starts from them.
Awesome.
That's
That's
nice.
awesome. Well, we're going to get into a little bit more of the in-depth of our catfishing today.
You bet.
So you mostly fish from the bank, would you
Almost
say?
exclusively.
Right.
I used to fish a little bit out of a pontoon boat with actually Tyler Wright. He's the
Okay.
hatchery manager at the Manning Fish Hatchery.
Right.
I fell out of his boat one time in the middle of winter with coveralls
goodness.
on, no less. Yeah. Had a good fish on, and I opened up the little deck there to help him land, and a big rogue wave hit the back of our pontoon boat. I did a header 180 into the water.
Wow.
And figured I had one chance because those coveralls, they soak up pretty quick and get heavy. So I reached up and grabbed the side of the pontoon boat, and he saw I'd grabbed it, and he kept fighting the fish. And I was like, go ahead, land him, you know. Just take care of the important things first. But anyway, had a nice, memorable ride back to the boat ramp in my underwear after stripping all that stuff off, and it was about 35 degrees that day. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
The great
Well-
memories. The fish was landed, though, 12-pounder, if I remember
Hey,
right.
there you go.
Nice.
Well, I do not envy you on the boat ride back to the ramp
Oh
and
no.
sub temperatures in your underwear.
Yeah, I understand you were just on some pretty cold water with paddlefish recently.
I
yeah?
was, yep.
Yeah.
I went out with the fisheries team. We were doing some paddlefish surveying.
That's neat.
And we had a pretty big winter storm come in. I think the temperature was 26 degrees on the water. I don't know what the wind chill was, but it started snowing on us. And so I assume the wind chill was probably even colder than
I
that.
imagine.
But yeah, we caught a ton of paddlefish, and it goes to show how like versatile our lakes are and how extensive our fish populations are, that we can go out in the dead of winter and catch
Isn't that the
30,
truth?
40-pound blue cats and flatheads.
But yeah, to answer your question, I greatly prefer bank fishing, and not because I
Right.
fell out of a boat. I don't care about that. I just like the freedom bank fishing brings,
Yeah.
you know, because, you know, I'm a long-legged guy, and I'm
Right.
out there. I can go walking around, stretch my legs out, you know, look for some arrowheads or, you know, cut some bait up. You're free on the bank. And if you want to go somewhere else, of course, in a boat, you can jet to the next area, but you can also hop in your truck and drive to the next area.
Right.
And I don't have to put anything up when I'm done. And I don't have to bust out another 1,000 having a boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, nothing
Also
against
get a
boat fishing.
fire. You can
That's
enjoy a
right. You can
fire.
warm up
Big
with a
plus.
fire.
That
yeah.
is a
Have to be
huge
careful
plus.
with the embers, though, Taylor.
Oh yeah.
So you told us a little story
Yes.
about how you had an ember come onto your line and you end
Yeah.
up losing a pretty big fish.
Unfortunately, and I was fishing with my dad at the time, and he'd already quite a bit older, probably in his 80s at that point.
Right.
And we camped out one night at Warrica Lake, built a nice fire, and, you know, wasn't like extremely cold, but it was in the late winter.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess the wind shifted during the night, and some of the embers, or at least one ember from the fire, landed, as luck would have it, in my line that was set out fishing.
That's crazy.
Got a fish on it, set back, and the line I use hardly ever fails. It's fantastic line, and
Right.
we can talk more about that later. But anyway, it just snapped, and I was like, "What on earth?" Got to examining the line, and you could see where it had a melty spot in it. One of those embers from that fire had hit your line. So be careful if you're burning campfires or
Right,
your bank
right.
fishing lines. Yeah.
But I would also say, like, look for the enjoyment of burning that fire and just hanging out, have some
That's
company.
right.
Like, that's what fishing to me is all about.
You're
Going out
exactly
with some
right.
buddies, you know, having a fire, hanging out, having a good time.
Taking it in, you don't have to catch fish every time. That's
Right,
icing on the
right.
cake. Yeah.
Right.
Especially with catfishing, I feel like that's one of the big enjoyments of it. You can sit there and really enjoy yourself while you're waiting on the fish to bite.
It's
Agree
definitely
100%, Taylor.
more passive because you throw that bait out and you just get to hang out.
It fits me well. I've taken some guys out before, and girls too, that just are too antsy. I mean, it's just not their thing. It's just like, I'm not quite patient enough for it. You got to know thyself.
Yeah.
And I can hang out, and even if I go 2 hours without a bite, I've done it long enough that it could change at a moment's notice, and that's what you're sitting there waiting on. And when it comes, it's worth it.
That's awesome. Well, getting back into the kind of bank fishing topic,
Yes.
Are there anything like for our constituents that are big into bank fishing that you look for specifically when you're going out to catch catfish? Could that be like weather conditions, maybe some structure in the water, points, anything like that?
All of that. Yeah,
Right.
there's so many different variables that go into the bank fishing for catfish. Now, you can go out and park anywhere you want and fish in any type of water you want,
Right.
but there are indicators that will help you catch more fish and bigger fish more consistently. First one of the most important ones, in my opinion, is wind.
Okay.
I always want some wind when I'm fishing. I have fished on days. Now, when you're in running water, the wind factor is off the table. It doesn't
Right.
matter. The fish are there. But if you're fishing lakes, points on lakes or flats on lakes, on calm, balmy days when it's beautiful, I call them bluebird days,
Yeah.
it's rare to catch a good mess of
Really?
fish. Now, not to say you can't or won't, but
Right.
I want wind, and I like to fish points, even in the winter, especially if they're adjacent to some deeper water.
Okay.
Wintertime, I kind of move my whole scenario from shallow water fishing to deep water fishing because I think the shad hole up in deeper water.
Right.
That's what the blues are after, and blues are my main species.
Right.
Now, if I can find a point, especially with have a headwind coming into it, doesn't have to be voracious wind, 6, 8, 10, 12 miles an hour is perfect. And even a flanking headwind kind of coming at an angle across that point gets the fish stirred up. I think the bait are in
Really?
the area, and the fish will, if they're not there, they'll be there soon.
Right.
And, in the wintertime, blue cats, again, they're voracious eaters. They're kind of gregarious. They hang out in packs and nomadic, too. They're moving around all the time looking for bait. And so a lot of times if you sit on a point where you know that you've caught fish in the past in that type of weather condition and nothing's going on, a lot of guys, they'll reel them up and move, and that's all right, too. But
Right.
I'd recommend staying there, especially if you've caught fish in that type of condition at that type of year. Hang in there because they'll be coming across eventually.
For sure.
So love points, love wind.
So you're talking about. Thanks for watching that clip from Real Talk, Real Tips. If you'd like to see the full episode, head on over to our YouTube channel at Outdoor Oklahoma. There you can find all of our past conversations with Oklahoma's finest anglers and experts. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and we'll see you next time.
All right, so we're out here at one of our first spots here. We're gonna try to locate a big paddlefish. Once we've located this big paddlefish, we're gonna go after it and we're gonna catch her. Once we've caught her, I'm gonna demonstrate real quickly on a real quick catch and release method to handle these fish and get them back into the water safely. That is crucial to the survival of these fish and to make sure that Keystone Lake or any other lake that has paddlefish continues this great fishery the Oklahoma Wildlife Department has made it. Got her that thumb rub. Oh, she's not happy, buddy. Oh, she ain't happy, bud. Oh, she ain't happy. All right, big. Reel. There we go. Reel, bud. Nice. There we go. Got her. All right, keep her tight. Tight. That'll boy. Good job, Brody. Good job, buddy. You have to use a barbless hook. You're not allowed to have barbs on these hooks. We're using anywhere from 2.5 to 6 ounce weights, depending on how the fish are reacting from one day to the next. And the biggest thing is to keep that line tied at all times, because you've got a massive weight pulling it down on a barbless hook. So if these fish get slack, that hook slides right out of them. I'm gonna actually help him out now. That fish took a lot of line. We're actually gonna chase it down. On the bigger fish, when I know they're over 100 pounds, keep that rod tip up, buddy. Keep it up and reel. If I know that the fish are over 100 pounds, I will, most of the time, I'll chase them down with the trolling motor. There's two reasons I like to do that. One that's real important to me is that by fighting that fish all the way from 80 yards out to 100 yards out, all the way back to the boat, it puts a lot of unwanted stress on that fish. The odds of survival obviously go down. These are very hardy fish, but anything you could do to help that stress of that fish out really goes a long way for these fish, especially during the summertime. The other part of that is if it does get fortunate enough to get away from us, I like the opportunity to maybe find that fish again, so I'll stay up on it with the trolling motor for those two reasons right there. Always be prepared to get that fish on board. Have your scales ready, have your phones ready to take some really quick pictures. If you're gonna bring it aboard, make it quick, get that fish back in the water as fast as you can. Rod tip up, come on buddy, put that rod to work. Good, good. So that fish is gonna be in the 70-pound range there. I try to keep my out of water time to about a minute. If we can keep it under a minute, especially when it's hot, we've done it right. And a big part of that is just being prepared. When you bring it aboard, just be ready and prepared. So at this point, you want to keep a little pressure on that line, and these fish have a tendency to take off if I don't get them this first time. So I'm going to have him keep pressure on that line, just like that. There she goes. We're going to keep her right here. All right, buddy. Let's try this again. And we got her that time. We got her that time. And that's how easy that hook pops out. It just comes right out just like that because it's barbless. What we're going to do now is I'm going to bring her to the back of the boat and we're going to go ahead and get our scales ready. So he's going to get his scales, and this is a good point. Leave them in the water. Let them recover a little bit here. We're going to get our scale on. We're going to make sure it's in the right unit. And this is a good point if you're going to take pictures to go ahead and have your phones ready. Have it in camera mode. That way when we get this fish on board, we're going to have her out as little as we possibly can. We'll get a quick weight, take a couple quick pictures, get them right back in the water. You're going to see that whenever we release this fish, the best thing to do is to take them and a nose dive straight in. You don't want them landing on their sides or on their belly. You just want to kind of get their nose pointing straight down. That way they get a good release, get back into the water. 99% of the time, these fish swim off just fine. But if you ever see that fish up, it could be one of two things. It went under a lot of stress and it's still a little stressed out, or its air bladder could be full. What you're going to see when I pull this fish in, I give it just a second on the side of the boat and it's going to put pressure on its belly, and you're going to hear the air come out of this fish. By allowing that air to come out of that fish, it's going to allow her to go back down to the depths of the water. So here we go. He's got the scale ready. This is the part where I kind of burp them a little bit. Come up. Sometimes you hear them burp, sometimes you don't, but I'll leave them right there for a second. This fish is actually going to be in the 80-pound range. So I'm going to bring her aboard. We're going to work real quick here. I'm going to have my rope ready to go for another girth wrap right here around the rostrum. I'm going to come up over the top. I'm going to take our scale. She's in the 80s. We're going to get a quick weight. 86 pounds. So we got an 86 pound. I'll hand him his scale. At this point, I would lift this fish up, hand it to somebody from this position. I just lift it up into their arms. They're going to cradle it, take a few good pictures, release her back in. But for right now, we're not going to take any pictures. So we're just going to get this 86-pound fish back into the water. So I'll release her, just coming off the edge. Remember, you want head first. And there she goes. And that's how it's done. Good job.
Outdoor Oklahoma is produced by the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation and is proud to serve and be funded entirely by sportsmen and women and outdoor enthusiasts who love and appreciate all things wild in the great state of Oklahoma. Connect with us online on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X, and YouTube. Want to know more about the Wildlife Department? Visit us at wildlifedepartment.com. Thanks for watching.